He laughed at a human. 10 seconds later, his legend shattered. The crunch wasn't loud, just wet, final, like a fruit splitting under too much pressure. Jorlin Vex dropped to his knees, massive hands clawing at his skull as dark blue blood seeped between his scales. Around him, the combat pavilion of Helios Interstellar Academy held its breath. Not a whisper, not a footstep. Even the hum of the containment field seemed to dim in reverence or fear. Elira Madsen stood 3 paces away, swaying slightly, her left arm dangling useless at her side, blood painting a thin line from her nose to her chin. She didn't smile, didn't gloat, just watched, calm as vacuum, while the galaxy's most decorated general crumpled under the weight of his own assumption. It hadn't started like this. 3 hours earlier, the morning suns of Nova Ceres had cast long triple shadows across the Academy's training grounds. Dust hung in the air, kicked up by cadets from a dozen species, Brathor smashing through foam barriers, shellbacks methodically scaling net walls, Zenturi weaving through laser grids with eerie grace. And then there was Elira, 5'6", human, no exoskeleton, no venom sacs, no natural armor beyond the thin synth fabric of her academy gear. She moved like water finding cracks in stone, efficient, silent, never wasting motion. While others roared or grunted, she flowed. That was what caught his eye. Jorlin Vex didn't walk onto the ground so much as declare war on them. 7 feet of muscle and bone plating, each scale polished to a mirror sheen that reflected not just light, but arrogance. His boots struck the permacrete like orbital strikes, thud, 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 and every cadet within earshot flinched. Commandant Relis met him near the command spire, thermal suit already damp at the collar. "General Vex," he said, voice tight, "an honor." "Is it?" Jorlin's voice rolled like tectonic plates grinding, "because from where I stand, this looks less like an academy and more like a nursery for soft-shell diplomats." Relis forced a laugh. It sounded like a distress beacon. Then Jorlin saw her. "What in the 7 hells is that?" he barked, pointing toward the obstacle course. "Cadet Elira Madsen, sir. Human recruit." The laugh that followed could have cracked viewport glass. He doubled over, slapping his armored thigh. "You let humans in now. What's next? Sentient moss?" Elira finished the course. Didn't pant, didn't glance back, but just wiped sweat from her brow and headed for cool-down drills. But when she passed the observation deck and saw Jorlin still laughing, finger jabbing in her direction like she was a joke written in bad ink, her expression didn't flicker. Not once. That should have been his first warning. Instead, he demanded a demonstration. "For educational purposes," he said, though his eyes gleamed with the thrill of humiliation. Relis tried to deflect tactical simulations, data reviews, even the cafeteria menu. But Jorlin was already striding toward the combat pavilion, his entourage scrambling like startled insects. Word spread faster than a plasma leak. Within minutes, the stands filled. Shellbacks pooling credits, Brathor arguing about human skeletal density, or even the usually impassive CR instructors blinking their 6 eyes in unison, a sign of deep curiosity. Elira entered the ring like she was stepping into a med bay for a routine scan. No swagger, no fear, just presence. "You know who I am?" Jorlin growled, already removing his ceremonial pauldrons. "General Jorlin Vex," she said, voice flat. 12 system victories, 4 suppressed rebellions, 67% casualty rate among troops under your direct command." The silence that followed was absolute. Even the ventilation fans seemed to stall. Jorlin's face cycled through shades of violet fury. "You dare question my methods, mammal?" "No, sir, just stating recorded facts." And that's when he decided to break her. But humans, it turned out, weren't built to break. They were built to bend, then snap back harder. He didn't just charge, he unleashed. A Vorlothian war form in motion was less a body and more a natural disaster given shape. The ground trembled, the air cracked. His first strike came down like a meteor, fist aimed to pulp her spine into the permacrete. It cratered the floor where she'd stood a breath before. Alira wasn't there. She'd shifted left, minimal, economical, the kind of movement that only comes after 10,000 repetitions in pain. His knuckles kissed empty air. The impact sent shockwaves up his own arm, but he didn't notice. Arrogance is deaf to feedback. "Stand still, mammal," he roared, spinning with terrifying speed for something so massive. His boot lashed out, a kick meant to shear through ribs like dry reeds. She ducked under it, rolled forward, and came up behind him. 2 quick jabs to the lower lumbar, where his scales thinned into flexible membrane. Crack, crack, not enough to wound, enough to map. Jorlin barely flinched. "Is that supposed to hurt? I've been bitten by hive mites with more sting." But the senior cadets watching from the upper deck saw it, saw how Alira's eyes tracked the micro-twitch in his left hip after each strike, saw how her stance adjusted, millimeter by millimeter, as if solving an equation written in bone and tendon. He turned, leading with a textbook Vorlothian elbow. Chapter 3, Verse 1, "Overwhelm the mind before the body breaks." Alira, slipped inside the arc, stepped into his guard, and drove her knee upward. He blocked it with his forearm. The sound was wet, heavy, meeting stone. He grinned, teeth bared like obsidian shards. "There's some fight in you." How delightful. He reached for her then, massive hands closing like bulkhead doors. Standard follow-up, crush, snap, end. But Alira twisted, coiled, and used his own momentum to roll across his arm. 1 heartbeat later, she was on his back, legs locked around his torso, one arm snaking toward the pressure point beneath his jaw. The stands erupted. Credits changed hands in frantic silence. Someone gasped. Someone else whispered, "Void, take me." Jorlin grabbed her collar and hurled her across the arena. She hit the far wall, bounced off the energy barrier with a shower of blue sparks, and landed in a crouch. Still breathing steady, still watching. That's when doubt first flickered in his eyes. Not fear, not yet, but the unsettling realization that this wasn't going according to script. He'd expected tears, begging, collapse. Instead, now she studied him like a technician diagnosing a failing reactor. "You're quicker than expected," he admitted, rolling his shoulders. "But speed means nothing without strength." He charged again. This time there was no theater, no laughter, just violence sharpened and stripped bare. A spinning back fist caught her shoulder. She staggered. A follow-up kick slammed into her ribs. The sound carried, sharp, intimate. She went down. The shellbacks in the stands started counting their winnings. She rose. Not slowly, not dramatically, just stood, reset her feet, tucked her chin. Blood now streaked her jawline, but her eyes, steady, brown, unnervingly clear, never left his. "What?" Jorlin sounded almost plaintive. "That kick shatters Kren exoskeletons." Alira said nothing, just stepped back into range. Fine. He abandoned form, abandoned doctrine. It went pure predator. Palm strike to the temple, knee to the gut, grab, lift, slam her into the barrier hard enough to make the field stutter. Medics edged forward. Relis raised his hand, ready to call it. She peeled herself off the wall. Left arm hung wrong, dislocated surely. With her right hand, she grabbed the limp limb, twisted, and shoved. A sickening pop echoed through the pavilion. Half the crowd winced. She didn't. "Stay down," Jorlin growled, voice fraying. "I'm giving you an out." "Not done yet, sir," she said, voice rough but level. "You wanted a demonstration. I'm demonstrating." Something in him cracked then. Not bone, but certainty. He rushed her again, faster, wilder. But desperation had crept into his strikes. His footwork slipped. His breath came ragged and Alira. She absorbed every blow like data. Each impact refined her next move. Her counters grew sharper, targeting the same spots: knee joints, axillary soft tissue, the base of the skull where scale met nerve cluster. Over and over, surgical, relentless. "Just go down," he pleaded, sweat dulling his once gleaming scales. "Why won't you just go down?" Because humans don't stop. Not because they're brave. Not because they're stupid. Because evolution didn't give them claws or venom or armor. So it gave them something quieter, deadlier, the refusal to acknowledge defeat until their heart stops beating. He stepped back, chest heaving, and forced his old swagger back into his voice. "I admire your resilience, human, truly." He settled into the executioner's stance, wide, rooted, final. But admiration doesn't change reality. "Say goodnight, little mammal." And then he laughed. That booming, galaxy-owning laugh. It lasted 3 seconds. Alira moved into it, closed the distance while his guard dropped in triumph. Her left leg swept up in a blur, heel driving under his chin. His teeth clacked like rifle fire. He stumbled back, dazed, hands falling open for just one fatal moment. She jumped, used his bent knee as a launch pad, came down with her right elbow like a piston, once, twice, third time, hammering the exact same spot on the crown of his skull. The sound wasn't a crack, it was a crunch. Jorlin's eyes widened, not with pain, with understanding, with terror. His legs buckled, he fell forward, face first, and the ground shook one last time. Silence, then chaos. Medics flooded the ring, scanners whined. Relis stood frozen, mouth working soundlessly. Alira swayed, bloodied, broken in places, but upright. She watched them haul Jorlin away on a trauma sled, life support beeping in panicked rhythm. Severe cranial fractures, hemorrhage, coma, career over. She walked to medical without looking back. 3 days later, in the mess hall, Brathor cadets gave her table a wide berth. Shellbacks no longer joked about human fragility. Betting pools now asked, which human will break the next impossible thing? Commandant Relis issued new protocols, mandatory file reviews before combat demos, strict limits on interspecies challenges, a memo titled "On the Perils of Assumption," and Alira. She returned to training, shoulder-wrapped, ribs taped, every step a quiet testament. The galaxy had assumed fragility, it forgot endurance.